Welcome back, everybody, to our Smolensk gameplay series. My name is Ari.
And my name is Heinrich.
So we're going to be returning to the board today with the Soviet turn. Heinrich is going to give a quick recap on where we're at and what we've gotten up to, and then we'll be continuing through his turn. Heinrich, you ready to take it away?
Right, it's been a while since we recorded, so I think it's a good idea to just get an overview of where we are. So we are still in the Soviet movement phase, and if you divide the map into three areas, north, center, and south, we've done the south and we've done most of the center, I think. So in the south, what has happened is that I have reinforced Mogilev. I've also moved some supply in there. And the intention, of course, is to hold this city for as long as possible because it presents an obstacle to the Axis advance east. I've also started moving units south, trying to reach the southeast box, and in fact some of the units have already exited the map, and the idea is simply to save these units from encirclement and bring them back on the map further east. There's also some units that are moving directly from west to east, like these and these. And that's pretty much what's happening on the southern third of the map. Now, in the center, I think this is the most interesting situation so far because Ari has moved units on the railroad or on the autobahn that connects Orsha and Smolensk. And of course, that is a concern because there's a danger of all these units in the Orsha area. Oops, I didn't want to do that. All these units in the Orsha area being encircled. So what I've done here is, again, I've fallen back from the front line and I've again moved units towards Orsha and from the Orsha area along this road towards Smolensk. And my plan is to, if that is at all possible, to dislodge Ari's 2 units here, reopen the road to Smolensk, and if I am able to do that, then would move first on the next turn, and it's debatable whether I should be going first on the next turn should I win initiative. But if that happens to be the case, then I would be able to try and move most of the Orsha units further east to Smolensk and potentially to safety. And what remains to do today is the Vitebsk area, essentially the northern half of the map. Now, before I start with this, there's one more unit I want to move in the center area, and that is a truck point. Just unmask it here. I have to remember that because we're still in turn 1, I only can use half of my movement allowance. So this truck point has 5 movement points, so I'll go 2, 3, 4, and 4.5 into Rudny. Now, 2 comments about that. Number 1 is, why am I moving supply into Rudny, or Rudnia, I should say. Again, I'm expecting this village to be surrounded or cut off in Ari's next turn, and it presents a roadblock on the way to Smolensk, and therefore I would like to keep this position for as long as possible, and I need to supply to do this. It comes with a slight danger because obviously vacuum points are quite valuable, more so for the Axis than for the Soviets because the Soviets have more of them. So there is a danger if Rudny falls that this vacuum point will be captured, but that's a risk I'm willing to take. The second comment I want to make about this move is I think it illustrates why can be quite useful to preload your wagon points during your setup phase. If I had not done this, I would have had to spend another movement point to load the wagon point in his starting position, and then I would not have reached the rootney. Okay, so this goes here, and I think this pretty much concludes what I want to do in the center. So let's get to the Vitebsk area. Okay, so the general idea here is that, again, I want to hold on to the northern city hex of Vitebsk, mostly because I want to deny Ari use of the airbase that is in Vitebsk, and hoping, to force him to, at some point, build an airbase using a supply point. It's always good if I can force the Axis to spend supply, or use one of his airstrip markers, which then cannot be used for bridging. And, the number of markers he has available is limited. So I'll be moving units into Vitebsk, and I'll start out with the rifle division here. This will go into Vitebsk, and also the 1222 rifle division on the other side. This will go into Vitebsk as well. And remember, we started out with a rifle division in move mode, which I will now flip to combat mode. Remains disorganized, of course. Okay, so much for Vitebsk. Now I'll turn my attention to Gorodok. What I want to do there, well, again, I have a wagon point in Gorodok. It still has 2T left, and I'm going to use this wagon point to deliver 2T to Vitebsk. Same idea. I want to have some supply in my strong points. And here we go, 1, 2 movement points. I'll unload for 1 MP. We have now 3 movement points spent. Go to the counters and get it. And we go 4 and 5. So like in the south, I'm trying to move units off the map into the northeast box for use elsewhere next turn. The difference to the southern edge of the map is that if far fewer units start the game and can reach the northern edge of the map in the north. However, this artillery unit here is able to do so. So I'll flip it to move mode. I'll spend 1 NT, 1 token to fuel it. And then I go 1, 2, and then I move off the map for 3. Find my off-map boxes. And this is the first unit that enters the northeast box. Okay. There's also a rifle division which starts the game at the edge of the map, and again I'm just going to move this off the map edge into the northeast box. Okay, I think this is all I want to do this area. Now let's turn our attention to the Veles area. Well, the first thing I'll do is put an HQ, and I want to move a few motorized units that require fuel. So I will spend 1 SP to fuel all independents in range using the so-called HQ method. Now I'll start with the motorized or the motorcycle battalion, and this is one of my few action rating 3 units. On its move mode side, it's got a movement allowance of 16, so I can move 8 MP. I can use 8 MP for movement. I think I want to move this towards Smolensk to block the tracks through the swamps north of Smolensk. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and I'll stop here. And then I will use the unit that starts out in Demidov to move 1 hex back, block the other track that leads through these 2 swamp hexes. And to complete this, I'll move this rifle division 1 hex to the northwest into the woods here. And what I've now done is established a line of sorts which runs from Demidov to the Smolensk road in the south, and which is held by units or protected by swamp hexes. Now, it's a very feeble line at present, and it will not be difficult for the Axis to punch through. But of course, it would again cost the Axis at least some supply to get through there. Okay, going back to Velis itself, I also have a artillery unit here. Going to start moving this east. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's all it got. I've got a tank unit here. If I want to move this, I will have to spend 1T. This is not covered by the HQ fueling method because it's a multi-step unit. So I will spend 1T to fuel this. The 1T will come from the truck in Velis. And I'll just move this 1 hex back. Now, you might wonder, why am I moving an armor unit into a swamp hex, given that the combat strength of armor units is halved in swamp hexes. This is offset by the swamp hex being very close terrain. So, if you compare on the combat resolution table, open and very close terrain, you'll see that essentially you always have in a way, a 2-column shift to the left in very close terrain. So I'm not really losing any combat strength. Plus, the Axis would have to attack across a river, which then again halves the combat strength of the Axis units. Okay, and again, of course, the idea is that I want to, block the bridge and prevent the Axis from advancing towards Velis. Now, I don't think Ari is doing this because if you look at this area here, he's not really positioned any of his units in hexes where he doesn't give the impression he wants to move east. I think he wants to move towards Smolensk, and already 12th Panzer has, as we discussed before, moved south to cut the road there. Okay, so let's finish the movement of our motorized units, and let's move the HQ itself. Set this to move mode, and 5 MPs available. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this unit will stay in Velis. The wagon point itself will also move east, join the HQ. Now, maybe at this point we should make sure that still everybody is in trace supply. And there I see I have problem. Okay. So the reason I have a problem, but it is as it is that I had actually been planning to move the wagon extender, but I see that I'm still dependent on it. I had erroneously assumed that the HQ from this position can trace to the supply source at the map edge, This is not the case because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, what am
Yeah,
I talking
you're
about?
good. You're good
I'm
there.
good. I'm good, actually. Yeah. Sorry. It's early in the morning for me. I can't count yet properly. Okay, so that's fine. What I'll do with the tracking extender is something that's maybe not familiar to everyone. I'm going to voluntarily collapse it. So usually, tracking extender collapse happens when an enemy unit enters the hex containing an extender. Then the extender flips to its normal side, i.e. in this case to the 5 wagon point sides, and it can displace within its draw range, which for the wagon extender would be 10 leg movement points. Now, this rule, which I think
I'm gonna highlight it in the.
it's 914D, this actually allows the owning player to do this voluntarily. And this is what I'm going to do. So I can flip this to its wagon side, and then I can move this. I'm displacing it, but I'm moving it by 10 leg movement points. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Right, I can remove this field marker. Okay, got another unit here that I need to move. And this rifle division here is really in an unfortunate position. Now I can't reach safety anywhere. So I'll just flip it to its movement side and move it onto the road, at least from Vitebsk to Smolensk. It's not going to last long, but again,
It could move towards Vitebsk, I think, to get trace supply. Could it not?
It could. But I feel that how many steps do I have in Vitebsk at the moment? I've got 4 steps in Vitebsk already. If it gets cut off, then I would have to eat off the map. That would cost me 2P. I don't have that much supply in there. So I think it serves a better purpose, to just try to slow you down. But, I get your point. I could also try to move it towards Vitebsk. Okay, this one just moves 1 hex into close terrain. It still can trace. Now let's check all our trace supply. This guy can still trace to Vitebsk, which at this point in time remains a trainable hex because the units adjacent to it are in move mode and therefore do not project its rock.
You've just you have revealed a mistake of mine. It's
Really? I mean, what did you have to? Well, you maybe could have moved a. Yeah.
I'm just trying to. Just trying to remember the command for unhiding a unit.
It's M. Yeah.
I stacked this incorrectly. Apologies. Did you move anything in there via train?
Oh, okay. No.
Did you already?
No, I haven't.
I think I can move him back as a penalty for that if you
No,
wish.
Let's see. No, just that's fine. That happens. Okay, so that changes the situation a bit. I have to move this guy back because I think so. This guy is fine. Obviously, this is still kept in trace by the HQ over here. Just this guy I have to think about again now.
Although Vitebsk is still a trace supply source.
Oh yeah, that's all I need. I'm sorry, I was confusing myself here.
It's only shut down for rail.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, as I said, so I'm good because this guy can trace 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, brings it adjacent to Vitebsk, which is still good for trace supply because the units there negate the control. All right. Okay, so I want to use this unit as well. Move back. 1, 2, putting a little bit more strength into Rudny, which, as I said, I want to hold.
Is movement still halved, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. So I flip this to
Oh no,
movement
no,
front
yeah, no.
gives me 4 movement points, and
Yeah,
I keep.
you've been moving everything at half. I just
Yes.
thought to myself, is this still the first turn? I lost my memory.
Yeah, we're still in the. It's a long time, but it's still in the first turn.
All right.
Okay, so let's see. I think that's all I want to do in this area. So what's left to do? I think what's left to do is to shuffle around units. Smolensk goes there. Okay. I have these 2 precious AVD border regiments placed in Smolensk during my setup. Just gonna move one of them to the southern hex. And yeah, I could also think about moving them somewhere else, but for the now, I'll just try to strengthen Smolensk as good as possible. Got another weaker security battalion. Move that forward to put an additional step to the swamp hex that blocks the road. Yeah. The RT units. Yeah, I mean, there's not really much I need to do for this exhibition map. I'll leave everything else. Okay, so I think this would conclude my movement phase, which then brings us to the air missions, which happen at the end of the movement phase. Okay, so let's get back to this guy here. So my plan is to remove this roadblock. I know it has 2 units in it. I know this information because Ari was paying 2T combat supply when he took this hex. I also think I remember that the attack went in with 6 combat strength of 6 on the Axis side. So I pretty much know which units are in there. It's going to be the Recon battalion that you can see on top. It's not a Recon battalion, it's a motorcycle or crowd battalion. Plus Aufklärungsabteilung. Yeah. And it also will have a motorized infantry regiments. Okay. Now, since I'm the Soviets, I cannot expect to dislodge these guys by 1 combat alone. So I've set everything up to attack this hex both in the combat phase, using all the units that are adjacent at the moment. And I've also positioned some units in reserve that will allow me to move close to the hex, adjacent to the hex, for a second attack in the exploitation phase. Now, of course, my big problem is action rating differential. The Axis will defend with an action rating of 5. My combat phase attack will go in with an action rating of 3. That would be an action rating differential of -2. That's not good. So I have to disorganize the stack first. Now, of course, I can do this with artillery, but that might fail. So what I'll do instead is I'll do an air barrage, and if that fails, I will then follow up with an artillery barrage in my combat phase. Now, if the air barrage is successful in DGing this stack, then I can use my artillery for something else. I'm also looking at hoping and trying to disorganize these 2 stacks here to, somewhat blunt his forward units. Okay, so I'm setting up an air barrage here. Let me see which units I want to use. here. It's within the range. Just collecting my air units for the moment. This comes in from Sebastian. Oops. Okay, that's unit number 2. And what else do I need? Now have another IL-2. Let's use the one from Khrushchev. Currently I have 10. I really would like to get onto the 12 to 16 column of the barrage table, so use this one here. So I propose I'll carry out this air barrage now, and then I will also have a number of interdiction missions, which I'll do after. Okay, so first we have to resolve flak. Now, in this hex, yeah, there's an airbase in this hex that gives a +1 die roll modifier to the flak roll. In addition, I have 4 air units in my stack. Again, this gives another die roll modifier for a total of +2 to the die roll. So flak +2, rolling for flak, and it's a 5. 5 + 2 is 7, so there's no flak losses. Now to the air barrage. My barrage strength is 13, so this is going to be resolved on the 12 to 16 column. What are our modifiers? There's no modifier for density, I guess, if I was correct in assuming that there is a motorized infantry, because we're above 1 RE. It's closed terrain, yeah, it's a village, so that means 1 shift to the left, and that is it. So we would be on the 8 to 11 column, and I'm going to roll now. That's a DG, I think. 10 would be a DG. So that was successful. So it means I can use...
You roll 3 dice just to resolve.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was. That's what I usually do. We shouldn't do this in the exhibition. No, I'm sorry.
Just so I know, the third dice is to determine the half hit if it's applicable.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So if you do this sequentially, you would first roll 2 dice, and then in some instances there's a possibility of a stack loss if you have one of these half results. And then you have to roll the third die. And if that is 4 to 6, higher than 3, then there would in fact be a step loss. So, because just to save time, we usually roll 3 dice.
Yeah, no, I have no problem.
More often than not, the third die is irrelevant, but that's why I rolled 3 dice. Right. Okay. Right. So we've got our DG result. Let me fly my air units back. All inactive now. Goes here. Model comes from Khrushchev. So I'm placing, again, just to improve visibility, inactive air units next to the airbase. I mean, strictly speaking, you should put them in the hex where the airbase is, just for ease of play.
Yeah.
So now, interdictions. Let me highlight the German petrol zones. So I know that Germans will receive a lot of reinforcements in the first few turns of the game, and they will all enter at the western map edge, either here, which I believe is called entry hex K. That's one bunch of reinforcements that go there. The second bunch can enter either here, entry hex J on the road to Orsha, or here, entry hex I, which is on the road to Mogilev. And the third possibility for entry is, I think, down here, G and even F. Now, because I was lucky in that the Axis has not managed to capture any air bases either in Vitebsk or in Mogilev, and has not been able to base transfer a fighter there in the Axis exploitation phase, much of these roads that the Axis will have to use to move forward with their reinforcements are not within an Axis patrol zone. So that gives me the possibility to fly train busting or interdiction missions trying to slow the Axis down. And that's, as I said, I guess several times, that's one of the things the Soviet player should try to do, just slow the advance down. Okay, I think what I'll give priority for now is the road that leads from Lepel to Vitebsk. And the reason I'm going to give that priority is that this road has already been opened past Vitebsk. So say a infantry division in strategic mode could, I guess, get all the way to here, or if prior to moving it, Ari would disorganize my Vitebsk stack so it no longer projects a ZOG, you can even move a Stratmov unit past Vitebsk. Whereas on the other roads, there's still Orsha, which is a roadblock, and there's still Mogilev, which is a roadblock. So I feel there's less need of interdiction. Okay. So I'll fly the first interdiction missions from my off-map airfields. So I've got this air unit here, flies in from off-map, and it's got a huge range, so there's no issue with it reaching this hex. I fly an interdiction mission here. Now, again, I have to roll for flak. 2 dice this time, 5, so the unit is okay. No flak losses. Now we roll for the barrage. We roll on the barrage versus facility table, which means I have to roll a single die. And have you opened the barrage versus facility table? Yeah, okay. And so we'll roll on the 5 to 8 column. And that means if I can roll 4 or higher, the interdiction mission will be successful. Single die, 4, lucky. I get to place an interdiction marker. Are you placing train busting markers or the old-fashioned interdiction markers?
I prefer interdiction.
Yeah, me too. Okay. And this unit, now inactive, flies back to the off-map airbox. Okay, so that's, the main goal has been accomplished. Let me try to place a second interdiction marker on this road. And it could be anywhere really. Don't really know. I'm happy to fly one here. Again, flak. 2 dice. No effect. Barrage. 1 die. 2, and that not work. Okay. Okay. Let me try this once more. Okay, now we come to an interesting discussion. The remaining air units I've got, none of them has a barrage strength of 5 or higher. So now we have question whether it would be better to combine 2 air units to get on the 5 to 8 column. Need to open this myself. Not the 5 to 8 column, the 5 to 10 column on the barrage versus facility table, which would give me a 50% chance of a successful interdiction mission, or whether I should fly single air units, say with a barrage strength of 3, and then roll on the 3 to 4 column, which gives me only 33% chance of flying a successful interdiction mission. So the question is, what is better, combining two air units with barrage strength of 3 each in one interdiction mission, or should I fly 2 separate missions in 2 separate hexes? And I think the answer is it's better to fly 2 separate missions if you
Yeah,
do the statistics.
I'm not a statistician. I'm not sure if 33.3% times 2 equals 66.6%. I'm not sure if that's...
No, not at all. No, but the way this is calculated, I think, is the chance of failure is 66%. And the chance of failing twice is 0.66 times 0.66, which works out as 0.4 something, which is still a lower chance of failure than the 0.5 chance of failure when you fly both units together.
I had
So
no idea that's how it works.
Well, I think that's how it works. It's negligible, but it's slightly more advantageous to fly 2 missions.
I think there's a lot of scenarios in games where you might be faced with decisions like that. So I think it probably pays to know how this specific category of mathematics works.
Well, as I said, it's a minor difference, but I'm a bit obsessive about this. Now, of course, it's a different situation if you really want to interdict a particular hex, because it's a crossroad or something, or a bridge. Then, of course, it makes sense to stack the odds in your favor, right? But in the situation we have now, I just want to interdict somewhere on a road, and I have
when it
several.
comes to stacking, I think it depends on context. So for starters, interdiction missions are not one of those things where you can just throw assets at it into one barrage and guarantee a result.
Right.
After 5 to 10, your chances don't go up any higher. There's no difference between 5 to 10 and 81 plus.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably a game design thing to make sure that people can't exploit the system too much.
Yeah.
So for example, like you say, if it was a critical hex and I had 2 units, yes, you could put them together for that 50% chance. But if you're able, I think the Red Air Force in this can't barrage in the exploitation phase, can it?
No, I can only fly air missions in the movement phase.
Right. If you could, then you would get a second chance to barrage the same hex.
Good point.
Using that 66 times 66 probability configuration, but unfortunately, the Soviets do have their hand tied behind their back on this one.
Yeah, you're making a good point there. Okay, so let's continue. So now, trying to get a second hit on the road up here, flying in my PE2, flag roll. No flag hit, barrage roll. So now, because I only have a barrage strength of 3, I need a 5 or a 6. And believe it, I'm lucky during a successful interdiction mission. It was an active. Back to where it came from. So now I'm satisfied with the number of interdiction markers I've placed on the road from Lepel to Vitebsk, and I'm turning my attention. I think the Mogilev area. Okay, I have to check that the range of this useful little tool, the range is exactly 27. I'm flying the Yak 4 from Pochinok, 27 hexes, which is exactly its range, this hex here, for another interdiction mission. Roll. No flag hit. Barrage, I need a 5 or a 6, and no luck, that's fine. And I cannot interdict the same hex twice, so for my next interdiction attack, I would have to use a different hex, so I'm here. Again, flug roll, flug hit, barrage roll. Successful. Yeah. This come from? Yeah. Next one, and I'm trying to place two markers, two interdiction markers on this. Should I interdict Mogul? Might be an idea. I'll go here. I'm thinking. Okay, I'm interdicting this hex here. Black roll. Black hit. So now we are on an even worse table, I think. Barrage roll. Only when a roll is that would be successful. Oh my god.
Oh,
Okay.
look here.
Okay, so this goes. Now let's see, have I got any air units left? I have one air unit left. Hit. 4 success. Okay, so that was a nice run of interdiction missions. And that then concludes my movement phase, I believe. I looked any air. No, I've used all my air units. Okay, good. So this brings us to the supply phase. I believe all my units are in trace supply. And look at the more critical ones. This guy kept in supply via this HQ. No, I'm lying to you. This guy can draw directly from Vitebsk. This one is in the throw range of this HQ here. So that one is fine as well. I think this guy here is in the throw range of the HQ that sits in Smolensk. 4, 5 easily. It's more interesting are these units here. Now, I've got an HQ in Gorky, which has 10. Throw
Why?
range 10. Yep.
Orsha's still got trace supply.
Yeah, I keep forgetting that. Yeah, there's no issue whatsoever. You're absolutely right. Even though you have a unit adjacent, a combat mode unit with the ZOC adjacent here, it prevents rail movement, but not trace. Okay, so so OSHA is still a supply source for trace purposes, and therefore everybody in the vicinity is in trace. I think there are no issues. And these guys down here, they are kept in trace by this, for example. Okay, so my supply phase, conclusion would be all units are in trace supply, none have to go out of supply or eat off the map. And that would bring us to the axis reaction phase.
Alrighty. Let's take a look-see here. Just turn off the patrol zones. Right. That's this bug. I've got this visual bug with the patrol zones. Always tends to happen with
Uh,
with
are
this.
the patrol zones stuck or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's annoying. I think the only way to fix it, we don't have to do this now, but the only way to fix this, I think, is to delete the air unit that projects the patrol zone and
Yeah. No,
replace it with a new unit. We don't have to do this now.
do it on the next save game. Or actually, I think I might be able to just reload the save real quick.
Sure.
Ah, I'm not the owner of the room. No, it's all good. Okay. Now, look, in terms of reserves, I do have some Panzer divisions in reserve. Now, I don't really think that there's any sort of situation that I can actually respond to directly, per se. But in terms of whether I want to use exploitations to, well, not, sorry, exploitation wouldn't be the right technical word, but game exploits to move as far as possible with some of these divisions in reserve, now would be the time to prepare that, because they will be able to fuel up now and make maximum use of that fueling. I don't
Because
have.
just to mention, it's because the fuel state lasts until the next cleanup phase.
Yeah, the next
Right.
friendly
Next
cleanup phase.
axis, yes, the
Yeah.
next friendly cleanup phase.
So if anything I fuel now will remain fueled upon the starting of my next turn, whether that be after a Soviet double turn or whether that be if I'm playing first next turn, we'll have to say. All right, that's your interdiction marker there as well, right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So what I think I'll do is I'll definitely fuel up the fourth and the SS Reich divisions, and just get them moving. Um, at what is it, 50% now in
50% of
yeah,
movement amounts, yep.
yeah, okay, so that'll be 8. So for these guys, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and half of 14 is 7. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. Just unhiding units as I go. Send to the reserves box. Send to the reserves box. He is released 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. And obviously he can go with the rest of his division. Alright, and that at least gets them sort of moving at the most fuel efficient state as possible. Although again, they're not going to be doing anything right now. Likewise with the 18th, I think we can probably get them moving too. Just to sort of see what my supply situation is there though. I think I'll yeah, alright, I'll take one supply point from there. Now yes, it's true that I'm getting rid of all my reserves, even though, for example, it could be a Soviet double turn, but again, I think in the event of a Soviet double turn, there's still very little that these reserves can do from as far back as they are, so
Yeah, I
realistically,
think there's no danger. There's no danger of me counterattacking,
yeah.
towards
Now,
the west.
now these 18th Panzer units are on a secondary road, so they actually do have a little bit of leeway in terms of where they go. They can get really quite up close and personal with the enemy. Tell you what I'll briefly do.
So
I'll
this is
just
just, as a This is
Yeah.
actually where the interdiction
Yeah.
marker comes in quite useful. It already exerts an
I'm
effect
I'm
on.
I'm going to give you 2 seconds to quickly readjust your fog of war around Orsha. I haven't really looked at it properly. I've averted my eyes, and I want you to fix it up now because
Oh,
I want to move on Orsha with as minimum intelligence as possible. Um, as this is not going to be a real line. This may not be a real line move, depending on what I'm capable of seeing. I will 1, 2, 3, 4. I will have the capability to overrun um, if I want to. Uh,
no, I don't think so. I mean, there's an
these.
interdiction marker,
Oh,
right?
there's an
Oh,
interdiction marker
sorry,
there.
I accidentally moved it now. Here,
Okay.
there's an interdiction marker,
One,
right?
2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, no, you're right. Never mind. But do please update. Yeah, you've got
Yeah,
your fog of
will
war
do.
update, just because that will still influence where I want to position my units. So they've all got 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, for example, if this guy goes 1, 2, 3, it will then also be 4, 5, 6 for every hex of interdiction that he passed
Yeah,
through.
yeah,
So to get
yeah,
here, he is now at 6 movement points
yeah.
with 2 left. Um, which is
Right.
also the rest of the movement for the rest of the formation as well. So 7. Okay, that's fine. I'll just move where appropriate. Nothing special there. Oh, well.
Hmm. This is something I had not considered. If I had not been lucky with placing interdiction marker here, you could have overrun my reserve step. Is that correct?
I don't know about that. One, two,
One.
three, four, five. Oh, damn, you're right. Yeah, good incidental foresight that you had there. The only question I have left now is whether I want to remain out of your zone of control so that they can be placed in reserve.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I want to sacrifice that extra 1 hex and step away from you so that they can be put in reserve for any machinations I might have in the follow-up turn. That's really the question on my mind right now. Um,
I mean, you could always disorganize Orsha using a hip shoot, and then
yeah,
you know no longer
that's
be
yeah,
in.
but yeah. I'd rather keep those air assets for the Schwerpunkt
Sure.
rather than cleaning up my planning mistakes. Um,
All about limited resources in this game.
mm. um, yeah, I think I'm actually going to stay one step back here
Mm.
to allow them to be easily put into reserve if need be. Um, yeah, I'm not intending. It is part of my strategy explicitly to not engage at Orsha, so getting too close really just has no bearing.
Mm.
For example, if I'm striking via here to seize the bridge, there's no reason to be caught up in these hedgehogs or up against any zone of control. It's better just to be here for the sake of preparation. Alright, I think that more or less settles the actual reserve markers that I have available. I do have one JU-87
Mhm.
available. Now, what's your air cover situation over here?
You mean if I have any petrol zones? I
Actually,
don't.
now that you mention it, jeez, you're right. Actually, so no, I cannot overrun him, but I can spot him for a
Yeah,
barrage.
you're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Um. Damn. Interesting. Yeah. That does put some chili sauce on the sauerkraut.
Oh my God.
I don't know if they do that. Um,
Yeah, we have something called currywurst, but
I've heard
chili on
about that.
sauerkraut.
It's
Chili
like
on
the
sauerkraut, a new
it's like
one.
currywurst is like the fish and chips of Germany, right?
Yeah, it's fast food. It's
Yeah,
it's Wurst, as the name suggests, and it comes with some sort of curry ketchup and curry powder.
and chips, right?
You can order it with chips on the side, yeah, but usually I think more traditionally it would be served with a bun, a roll,
I see.
bread.
Well, considering the stakes at play here and the possible amount of regimental equivalents under that reserve marker, I think that it's probably an imperative that I try to neutralize that reserve stack. So I will keep some units there in reserve as part of my initial proposition, but I shall also, well, okay, I will move him there and occupy these fellows.
Are you
Um,
moving stuff? Because I don't see anything on my map anymore.
uh, I may need to synchronize with you. One moment. Right, yeah, so I'm going to move um, these two weaker units here just in the case of a counterattack, and I will still yet keep uh, well, Wenschung Denschung.
Wenn schon, then schon. Very good.
Yeah, I'll just make sure that these units here are not exposed to any undue force. Um, right, yeah, okay, so that'll have to be a change of plan. And yeah, I suppose it doesn't really matter if I do this as a barrage or a hip shoot at the end of the day. I
Hmm.
don't really have any additional air assets, at least not that can reach the map or reach anywhere, and I don't really want to muck about with fighters doing barrages. It's not really necessary. So yeah, I think I'll do a hip shoot. There's no fighter patrol zones above those reserve units,
No,
correct?
they're too far away. I think the
Yeah.
closest fight is in Smolensk. That doesn't reach. Oh,
Okay, cool. So let's just take a look at the flak modifiers here. There's no air bases, I assume, underneath.
nope, nope, nope.
Alright, so it's just a flat 11 or 12. I'll take a flak hit. Alright, off to a good start. Right, 12 to 16. I can see that it's in open terrain.
Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, hold on. I'm, I was just checking the Panzertruppen boundary to make sure that
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I haven't yet started any funky
Yeah.
business there. But Orsha specifically is not the Panzertruppen boundary. Um, although I ought to just quickly check the rules to make sure that there's
No,
no
I think the line on the map
map issues there.
starts 1 hex to the east of Orsha. Orsha
Yeah, I
itself is
think
not.
you're right. 19. Yeah, the 19 line. That's this line.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. 19th meridian. Right, so in that case, I think I'm just staying, unless there's a density shift.
Let me just make sure. I need to. Oh, yeah, there are density shifting on. So I've got in total 2, 4, 5 regimental equivalents. That's 2 to the right.
Yep, okay then. So I'm going to be in the 25 to 40 column.
Yep.
6, 7. Hold on a second. I want to make sure that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I just wanted to make sure that I am indeed legally moving here before I start barraging. But I believe I am.
Yeah, you are.
Yep, okay. 25 to 40. Pretty low, but it is
Good enough.
it is good enough, right? I shall take him back to here, and that will neutralize, thankfully, um, the reserve stack, which is at least one of the threats neutralized for now. In terms of, do I want to blow up any supply dumps? No. So I think I'm going to be handing it back to you for the combat phase.
All right. So that was a blow to the Soviet attack plan. I suppose in retrospect I should have done a better job at preventing this approach. Maybe I could have moved this unit down here or something like this. This is not something I had on my radar. Very good. Okay, so combat phase starts with the barrage segment. I've got one artillery here used for barrage, and the other one here will be used in exploitation. Just want to make sure I'm not overlooking anything. Actually, there's another artillery here. What do I want to do? Okay, so this RT here going to barrage the rest of 12th Panzer. I'm paying 4T, 1 SP. Comes from Smolensk. Now this is also open terrain, I think. There's a KTX marker. My barrage strength is 26. Are there any density shifts? I guess no.
No, it's a division. There's no units outside of the division, so it's just no density shifts. Yeah.
So the barrage is on the 25 to 40 column. Nice first. That's 8. There's a potential. So that's a 1.5 result in brackets. So there's a potential for a step loss. I roll a single die to determine if there's a step loss or not. There's none, so it's just a G result. That means all I need, really. Okay, so I've done that. And I think this is pretty... Okay, just want to make sure I don't want to do any other barrages. Okay, so that brings us to the combat phase. Now, because you disorganized my reserve stack, I'm no longer hopeful that I will be able to clear you out of Krasnoye. But I'm going to try anyway. If only to force you to spend supply. It might even be that we do not have any combat supply close enough and would have to go low, use internal stocks. We'll have to see. So then it becomes interesting whether I go first or second next turn. If I manage to kill one of your 2 steps here and I go first next turn, then I probably can clear this out. Still an open question whether I really would move first if I have the choice, because when taking the double turn always sets up your opponent for a potential double turn of his own. And, given the mobility of the German motorized units and motorized divisions, that could be very bad indeed. Okay, so what have I got? I've got, I'm going to attack here from all adjacent axes. Let's see how much I have to pay. I have to pay 2T for this rifle division here. Those 2T will come again from Smolensk. Now we'll also attack from this hex and hit this hex containing 1 unit each, so I need to pay another 2T. The HQ from Smolensk cannot reach these 2 units, but I think the HQ in Gorky can. Let's just make sure that's right. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, just about adjacent. So, and the HQ will draw from this wagon point here, the 2T. And you have to pay 2T.
Yep. All right, let's see what's available to me. Right, I'll consume 1T from here. And let's see. Yep, I'll pay the other T from an undisclosed location.
Okay. All right, so what have I got? I've got 12, 14, and 3 is 17. So odds are 17 to, guess 3?
Yeah, 3.
Which gets us to the 6-to-1 column close terrain. Right?
Correct.
So the action rating differential, so it's action rating 3 versus action rating 4.
Correct.
Because you are disorganized, so we have action rating differential of -1. Going to roll for surprise. And that's a 9 minus 1 equals 8, so there's no surprise.
Mm-hmm.
So we stay on the 6-to-1 column, close terrain.
So you're going to roll 2 dice and subtract 1.
That's right. So it's 6 minus 1 equals 5. And that gives us AL1, DO1. So I have to take a step loss. It's got to come from my action rating unit, which is on here. So that one goes to the dead pile.
Right. Well, being DG'd here and surrounded by zone of control, I'm really not. It's
No
really
point in
it's like, well, yeah, no, not necessarily. So, and of course, the Aufklärung is more expendable than most. So,
yeah.
I will release him and maintain my position.
Yep. Okay. And now, it becomes, I think, even clearer why it was so important for you to disorganize this reserve stack. Because now the only thing that's left here is the motorized infantry regiment. It would defend with a combat strength of 2, an action rating of 3, so that really is doable for the Soviets to clear out. But that's not going to happen now.
So, does that conclude combat?
Yeah, it certainly concludes combat, yeah.
Okay.
So we now come to the exploitation phase. I think since I started out with a total of 2 reserve markers, there's only 1 left to deal with, this one here. Release this. And, the reason I had moved this here, just to reiterate this, is if maybe I had failed to disorganize this stack in the air barrage and in the combat phase artillery barrage, I now would have a third possibility to try to barrage this stack. It's not necessary or wouldn't help. So I'm going to move this artillery unit back into the relative safety of Rudny. And that concludes the movement segment of the exploitation phase. And in the barrage segment, I have to think about this. I'm either going to tell this one or this one. I think I'm going here. I'm barraging 20's Panzer.
Okay, I can make that easy for you. After you've paid, there's no density shifts, but there is a...
Oh, there are. Oh, sorry, there's no density shifts. Yes, sure.
No, it's just a divisional stack.
Mm-hmm.
So, just pay and minus 1 for the terrain.
Yeah, I've paid. It's minus 1 shift to the left, so we are on the 17 to 24 column. 2 dice, 9. I think that's a DG. No further consequences.
It's a parenthesized result.
Oh yeah, okay, but it's an outage. So I might even have a step loss. So I'm going to roll 1 die, and it's a 5. So there's 1 step loss.
Yep, it is. Are we using randomized step losses? I think we are.
I can't remember. I don't mind either way.
I, as a practice, use randomized step loss. I prefer
Go
not to
ahead.
have shell
That's fine.
catches. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 combat units in here, so I'm going to roll 1 dice. From top to bottom, the number that I roll dies. 1 is the elf clearer. Unless I'd lost the artillery, that's about as good as it gets in terms of taking losses. Alrighty then. Cool. Any other exploitation barrages or combat?
No, I didn't have. No, there's no other unit eligible. So that's it. I can now clean up.
Yep.
Remove LID. Fiction. Quickly check that I've masked all the units that need to be masked.
Yeah, but you can. No problem.
Good.
I should do the same.
I think I'm good.
Especially since I keep making fog of war mistakes.
Okay. So that brings us.
Cool. I'm going to switch back to the German side. I did minimal peaking, but obviously with there being 2 weeks on average, 2 to 3 weeks between our games, any intelligence I did unconsciously lock in, I will have lost by that point anyway. So keep it that way. But it was good just to be on the solo side, so I could open up stacks while you're explaining things, so players can get a better idea of what they're looking at without you having to constantly fiddle with the fog of war.
Yeah.
Would you like to resolve the early phases of next turn in this game? We just sort out the initiative so we know who's going next for the next.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So there's no weather roll in this game, right?
There is. Yeah, there is a 1 in 6
flight
chance.
Roll. Yeah, but that's for flight conditions. There's no ground conditions are always strong.
No,
right?
They won't.
Okay.
They won't.
So let me roll for flight.
Oh, we're all already cleaned up.
Oh, hang on. I just need to remove the move markers. Now I have.
Yeah. Okay, all good. All right, we can take that flight roll. Normal flight.
Normal flight conditions.
Yeah. I'll just move the turn marker from 8 to 12. I'll roll my 2 dice initiative roll.
Okay, that looks good for you. I roll mine. The 9. Axis has the initiative.
Yep. Well, it's worth discussing this before I make the decision. See, there is definitely a motivation for the German player to make the Soviet player go first, because the German player might want that double turn. But at the same time, the German player needs to consider his exposure,
Hmm.
because the Russian player will get his movement allowance back if you give the turn to him. Not only that, but if you give the turn to the Russian player will have a whole new turn to play around with his DGs that he's paid for. So essentially, he gets two DGs for the price of one. So in that case, considering that I am fairly exposed in Krasnoye, and I'm also at least aware, based on the intelligence that I do legally have access to, that there is a stack of units that I'm adjacent to that are vulnerable and packed together, I think I can safely say that I think there is enough tactical impetus for the Germans to go first. So I'll give the Germans the initiative
Hmm.
for
Yeah,
this
very good.
turn,
Yeah, I would
and
have done the same, I guess.
yeah, and we will we'll wrap it there and come together for the next video in a week or two. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad to say that after I think what has been now 6 hours, we have managed to get through the first turn, and I think that's actually pretty good for time. I mean, when we would be playing without any of the commentary, you could easily half that time or more.
Yeah, I think so.
But I think, if you're a first time player and you're getting through the first turn of a game like Smolensk in 5 to 10 hours, you're doing pretty good. You're
Sure.
you're on the way. Thank you for tolerating my every now and then fog of war mistake. As you can see from watching us play, there is some you have to live and learn with those things, but it's just important to be vigilant and stack things properly. Um, so yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Auf Wiedersehen.